Slayers, the motion picture, butchers its own license so violently that I'm kind of awestruck. Nowhere within this ungodly bland, slapdash parade of flashy action sequences can you find any of Slayer's heart, humor, or insights on fantasy media. This film is so dreadful that it stands as a proud testament to just how gruesomely one can mutilate artistic ideas, trampling them into a thin, unrecognizable, highly marketable paste. But rest assured, even if you're not a fan of the original light novels, Slayers, the motion picture, is still forgettable drivel. It is defined by its lack of artistic purpose, handling every plot element and character with as little care as possible. Lena Inverse, our protagonist, is so flanderized and shallow here that her only traits are being good at magic and having small boobs. Her sidekick, Naga, instead has large boobs and is bad at magic. Do you get it? Do you get the contrast? Because that's all it is. Every scene is just that, over and over. The characters basically just exist to be excessively sexualized at every opportunity. And speaking of our protagonists, they are mages. And speaking of their magic, it is ridiculous. Magic usage has no visible cost, drawback, or consequence here. It just seems to solve every conflict instantly, and at no point does it even seem that our heroes are in real danger. The conflict isn't so much a conflict as it is an arbitrary sequence of plot devices, and a convoluted arbitrary sequence at that. That's right, we got time travel, alternate timelines, and all sorts of arcane shenaniganry which doesn't actually mean anything. The core conceit here is essentially just that a demon killed a bunch of people, and their souls now seek vengeance, so it's up to Lena to sate their desires. But the film obfuscates this simple narrative with layers of tedious exposition, a romance which goes absolutely nowhere, and one of the blandest villains and blandest villain reveals in fiction history. It's utter tripe, and virtually any generic fantasy novel has more effort put into it than this. In total, Slayers the motion picture is an absolute travesty. It fails to evoke the spirit of its own license, fails to evoke the spirit of fantasy, and fails to parody anything besides the blatant laziness of its own nonsensical narrative. I actually watched this film about a dozen times growing up, and each time I would forget about it shortly after viewing. And hey, now I know why. Everything meaningful about Slayer's identity has been surgically removed and replaced with hee-hee, hoo-hoo, big boobies.